What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. What is up, dudes? Let's bring Ray up here. Hope everyone's weekend was awesome. I'm just going to bring up my notes from the book 8 Dates here. Mr. Ray, what's up, brother?
Good morning, Wes. Life is good. How's my sound?
All good, man. And we are already live.
Awesome.
All right.
I believe that we are on chapter 5, date number 5, room to grow. That's where we talk. That's where we practice talking about kids and what kind of family we want.
Yep. Yeah. So for those of you who are just joining us, we're going through this book called 8 Dates right now. I'm listening to the audio and reading the physical book, and I have a workbook here as well that I'm doing. Let me just pull up my notes here. So, Ray, while I'm doing this, what were your thoughts on the chapter?
Well, again, it doesn't really matter if you. It's not fatal to the exercise if you don't have this conversation with your spouse or your girlfriend. This is good. This is excellent self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-mastery information. Yep. It's a self-mastery exercise if you're doing it alone. It's also not a deal breaker if you already have kids. For people like me or Ryan or Fran or anyone else who already has kids, these are good. There's good lessons in here on how to maintain a healthy relationship with your spouse, how to prioritize your spouse, to set up a good model good behavior for your children.
Yeah. So when you, and first of all, if you don't mind giving people background, so you had a different childhood upbringing just in terms of raw numbers than your wife did. Did you guys discuss that? Was there a plan, and how has that affected, I guess, your blossoming of your own family now?
Yeah, it did affect our family planning, and it affects it to this day. Yes, was an only child with her mom and dad. Her dad had 3 previous kids from a wife that passed away. So it was this weird hybrid model where she was an only child in some sense and part of an extended blended family in another. But she came at the concept of what kind of family she wanted from an only child perspective, that one child is a family that constitutes a sufficient number of offspring to make a family. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I grew up one of 5 kids, not a blended family, but one of 5 kids from both parents, same parents, and absolute chaos. Didn't need friends, had lots of friends, but didn't need friends outside the home because there was always all kinds of action amongst the 5 of us. And so my understanding of my idea of a happy family was lots of people. And maybe her idea of a happy family was more one-on-one time with the parents.
Right.
That informed the both our reactions when we got pregnant, and it informed our goals for a family. Like, I remember seeing a documentary about the Kennedy clan, and Robert Kennedy, brother to JFK, had 11 kids, and like they're all jumping all over him in their home outside DC in like Silver Springs, Maryland or something. Big dog climbing all over them too, like a chocolate lab or something. And I was like, that is the like platonic ideal of a family. 11 kids. Now, having had one, I learned from practice how much work a child is, And Thea is such an amazing, first of all, I wanted a son, right? Because I had this playing catch with the son in the yard kind of cliche idea. I wanted a son. Got a daughter. Daughters provide just like a cat versus a dog. I find that a daughter provides all the same loyalty, companionship, everything that a son does, right? So love having a daughter. Second of all, one child is very expensive and requires a lot of energy. So at this point, it looks like we're only going to have one child. At this point, we only have one child. And that, Thea fills my heart with love in a way that I don't require any more kids to have my idea of a complete family. I would prefer to have them, but at this time, 2 parents and 1 kid is plenty of action for me.
Now, is this something you guys discussed prior to marriage?
Yes. In a threatening way, I would say, we're having 11 kids.
Yeah.
So do your stretches, do your exercise, or whatever, limber up. And so it is something we discussed, but, we just kind of we were together 3 years before we got engaged, 5 years before we got married, and we were together 13 years before we had our child. So it's not something that we planned. And it's not something that we seriously discuss in the way that John Gottman suggests.
And if you were to do it over again, would you do it the same way?
I probably would. I mean, I have no problem with the way I did it. Let's see. Waiting that long allowed me to mature. I even required more. I required probably an extra 5 years. I probably required an extra 10 years when I think about it. After Thea was born, to fully mature and to fully embrace my responsibilities and really kind of lean in to my responsibilities as a father. Hell, I'm still learning that lesson, but
yeah, no, that makes sense. So I think, and this message goes out to Dima as well, because I know Dima is currently, he's about to go into that stage. He's engaged, I believe engaged. And it's amazing to me. I've got a decent amount of clients who got married who didn't talk about children. They did, but they didn't. They kind of mentioned it, right? Almost like you're saying. I mentioned it offhandedly, when we got dessert at dinner, every once in a while, I'm saying, oh yeah, we're having 11 kids, that sort of thing. And then the wife's like, yeah, but we're not, and then that was the extent of the dialogue. And then I have seen it worked out for you, but I have seen it cause devastation in a relationship where it then got to the point that husband and wife got married. And then the husband was like, yeah, time to have those 11 kids. And the wife was like, yeah, remember I told you over appetizers, we're not having those kids. And that's I'm the gatekeeper, so we're not doing it. There's one marriage in particular that I know of that's done it for sure. And it's causing absolute chaos in their relationship because he's heavily religious and she's heavily committed to not having children. So he will not divorce her and she will not have children. So they've been in this stalemate for now, I think for 11 years. It's crazy. So having conversations like this, I would imagine this is a big one. This might even be the biggest one outside of the fundamentals. Do I trust you? Then it's okay, well, if we're getting married, I would assume that a large percentage of the pie of why you get married, I assume, is to have children. And if that key piece is taken away, I mean, what do you do there?
Well, I think it's possible that most people don't have a defined answer to the question, do you want children? How many children do you want? When do you want them? To those, yeah. I don't think most people, let's say they start dating in their teens or 20s, heck, your brain is still developing and forming and firming
right.
up until 25 or something. So, and I think we've talked about before, young men have such a delayed adolescence now. We don't have those those ceremonial tribal rituals into manhood, whether that's like kind of like going into the desert with the rest of your tribe, or even like going into the army, or like for most of us, there is no clear bridge, clearly defined bridge out of childhood into manhood. So when you should talk about this is never presented to us, right?
Well, let me ask you this: when should a man get married?
Because
I think this is a good conversation that I think every man should have that very few men have.
Yeah, well, I don't know, Wes. I don't know if there is a number, like, you know, yeah, I don't know if there is a number. Let's see, for me, her and I started dating. I was 22, she was 19. We got engaged. I was 25, she was 23. We got married. She was 24. I was 27. Then we had Thea. I was 35. She was 32. So, you know, so like, it's hard to say, did we rush in? In retrospect, getting married at 25 and 27 seems young to me in this day and age. Doesn't seem young to other parts of the country. Wouldn't seem young even 40 years ago or 30 years ago. So I guess rather than giving you the answer of a number, maybe it's less qualitative and more quantitative. Maybe it's like, the question is, should you have completed college or some kind of skills training? Should you be on your way to a down payment on a house? Like, should you, in other words, what should come first? The life stability, then the marriage, then the children? Or can you have the marriage first and that assists the life stability?
Yeah, I have a perspective on this. Do you mind if I share it with you?
Oh, please.
So I went to this seminar a handful of years ago, and I thought it was pretty profound. Particularly, one of the things that they said is that men should be qualified for marriage. That's the first time I ever heard that concept. And there was a handful of a handful of factors to consider. One of them was, are you financially independent? Right. And independent, not in the terms of like infomercial financial independent, but like, can you literally survive off of your own resources? And therefore, like, that assumes like the minimum prerequisite to be able to help other people survive off your resources. So I think that's very important. I wish I would have been told these qualifications when I was younger, because I'm not married. I've delayed marriage for these reasons. I just could never articulate it. But it was the first time it made me feel comfortable with my decision. Like, okay, number one, are you, like Kaizen is saying, are you established? Can you provide for you and your family financially? Do you have a code of conduct, in my opinion, that you can share and expand with a family? I'm currently working on what I call a family Bible, which is like writing down my values and certain patterns that I see in the world. Also, just so everybody knows, I have now committed to not cursing any longer. So I'm going to try to follow through on that, only because I was thinking recently, and this would go on my family values list. Like I was thinking how much I value comedians like Nate Bargatze, who was just on Joe Rogan's podcast, who don't use any curse words at all. Right. And I was like, and then also Jordan Peterson, I've never heard him curse. So there are ways to be effectively funny and effectively.
Get your bloody act together. Like, so he goes right up to the line.
Yeah. So, but that would be an example of what would go in my family values list. Like, what are those values that you've thought about and you've practiced that you can share with a family? Goal setting would be another one. Like, my family will be setting and sticking to goals. So those types of things. So that way, and I can tell you from doing that, it has given me a massive filter for dating. Like, you can almost tell right off the bat whether or not somebody will adopt those things or is aligned with those beliefs. So then the other things, like, did I get my nomadic stage out of my life? Not going and getting into a relationship where inevitably, you're going to move to China next year or whatever that is. So different qualifications like that. So I don't think, Ray, I agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily an age. I do think the educational system and I guess general infrastructure of society has pushed back the marriage timeline, because it's like, good luck getting married when you're 21 when you haven't finished your undergraduate degree yet. Different things like that. So I do think as men, and I do think the responsibility should be on us, because we don't have as much of a hard deadline, quote in air quotes, as females do. So I think it's on, and we are, even though society would tend to tell us the opposite right now, I do think we have a responsibility to be the providers for the family still, in my opinion. At least I think that's the default. And if it doesn't work out that way, then that's fine too. But Ray, what are your thoughts on that? Being qualified to get engaged, to get married?
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, I think we are hardwired for leadership. I think that so just to qualify for marriage, great. If you're not qualified for marriage and you find yourself married, it's not too late. Get your ass qualified.
Right.
The scorecard, the scorecard that I do every day, which is right here, that we all know: sleep, water, active love, goal review, weighing yourself, learning, journaling, movement, meditation. And I add a couple more. That trains me for a great day. I wasn't doing that before. I wasn't doing that in preparation of being married and the leader of my household. I do it now. So I wasn't doing that before Thea was born. I do it now. So for those who weren't strictly qualified to be married, it's not too late to get what do you call those courses? Like your continuing education courses.
Yep.
And get your ass qualified. Oh.
And how about this? I've noticed a pattern of ambitious men in particular who have potential that they have not peaked yet in terms of attractiveness to the marketplace. And then they end up peaking after they get married, and then subject themselves to increased risks because now they're getting attention from the market that they've now earned, but they didn't earn it before they got married. Does that make sense? So the Jeff Bezoses in the world that all of a sudden get wealthy, now they have access to level 10 females, their version of level 10 females. And oops, now I'm getting divorced because I think he cheated on his wife. I'm not sure if he did or didn't, but let's just say that's the thing. Oh, now I cheated on my wife, or now that I see I could earn a higher level female in his mind, and now he divorces her, etc. What are your thoughts on that pattern? In other words, I think it's now my belief. No, I'm going to state this clearly. It is now my belief that a man in the window that he is hunting for a female to earn her partnership should make sure that he's done everything to optimize himself so he can earn the level 10 female that he's seeking. If he makes the decision prior to earning that level 10 female, he is taking the risk that at some point he optimizes himself and now has, quote, better options in his mind. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that's always a risk, especially because being in a relationship, and it doesn't have to be marriage yet. I was self-aware that being in a relationship gave me so much more confidence, more personal self-esteem, right? Because I wasn't desperate anymore. You're
playing with house money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is a built-in risk that when you're in a committed relationship, like you said, you're playing with house money. The default position is you will always be able to go home to a warm bed with your partner in it. That risk is always there. I think, but part of being the complete holistic man is managing that risk and, putting the proper investments in your relationship.
Yep. Got it. So do you think do you think that there's just always going to be risk of, okay, well, you're with the same woman for decade after decade. There's just that risk. Or is there an added risk of, oh, well, I didn't have a chance to earn those level 10 females. Now I do because now I make money, or whatever the reason is. Is that an added risk, or is it marginal at best?
No, there's definitely an added risk, especially if you are with the same person year after year, decade after decade. You've fallen into a rut, like Kaizen is saying in the chat. Like, you let things fall apart. You don't nurture the romance in your relationship, and this comes up in chapter 5, date 5 in the book that we're going to discuss today. If you let your relationship fall apart, we brought this up in earlier chapters, and you have a level of frustration and contempt with your spouse. You find a female in the office who's much more attentive to your emotional needs, and you tell her what's wrong, what's going wrong in your relationship, rather than telling your spouse. Yeah, the risk is amplified.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Plus, in that scenario of the office, you also don't have the negative associations that you do to your spouse, because you don't know that she doesn't clean the dishes after eating. You don't know all those kinds of things. Right. Yeah, I do think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then that the person in the office still laughs at your jokes. You haven't disappointed them to the point of like permanent contempt. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I've noticed this risk in particular with business owners, because then you get to a point of where you're now 10 years deep into your business, and you're now hiring employees, and you get the cute little assistant. Oh yeah,
you're in control.
Yeah, you're now at the pinnacle of your hierarchy, so even that much more risk. So if somebody was out there, if I had a younger brother and he was not married yet, I would tell him, like, don't consider dramatically not making the decision for marriage until you feel that you have fully optimized yourself. Now, the idea is to keep on growing, clearly.
Yeah.
But if you have not gotten yourself into the space yet where you can earn the highest level female that you are after, then I would say strongly consider not getting married until you've reached that pinnacle.
Please read the comment by Kaizen in the chat. Do not say it out loud. But what if you meet the girl of your dreams before you're optimized? What if you meet the one? What if you have such a strong bond while you're still in college?
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, I think like a lot of things, there's veto power. Like I think veto power is a real thing, and I think obviously like that could work. I also have a funny feeling that you kind of know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I would. That's what I would imagine. I would imagine there's a thought of like, yeah, she's great, but I do think I could do better. Like, and I think a portion of those are correct and a portion of those not correct. But I do think that the majority of men would know. You know, like, so for instance, how do I say this? So I could say that I have felt this way in the past, just to be vulnerable about it, right? Like the town that I grew up in and so on. I just knew there was more out there, if that makes sense. And that had to do with like finding a spouse or just like enhancing my skill set in business. I just knew that there was a bigger game to play, if that makes sense. So I think that same model can apply to a relationship. Like you might know, or you might feel if there's a bigger game to play, especially if like the girl that you're dating is really like for instance, I dated a female when I was younger who was pretty big into like the bar scene, not alcoholic by any stretch of the imagination, but like that was like her way of like having fun with friends and so on. I knew that wasn't me. Like even back then, I don't know.
That it wasn't a perfect fit.
Exactly. Yeah, something like that. So that's what I would say, because getting married is arguably the biggest decision you're going to make of your life. Right. So getting back to this particular chapter, where like when you are talking about your life with someone, I would say that building a family is most likely is one of, if not the biggest conversations that you could probably have.
Yeah, and it is because it will take up. It could take it arguably, if done well, it takes up the most amount of your time, or it's one of the biggest time consumers in your life. and it's one of the biggest expenses you'll face.
Yeah.
As a couple.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know, but sorry, go ahead.
It's a very important topic. And again, lads, it's okay if you don't have this conversation on your first date. I can see Wes like giving a girl a like true or false test, running it through the Scantron machine, brought to the restaurant, and then I graded on a curve. But
I've brought many Excel sheets to dates before.
Right. So yeah, and the panties just fly off, huh?
Yeah.
No, I think you probably scared the monkeypox off them. But date 5, chapter 5 of 8 dates, family. I'll just go through some of my notes.
Yep.
Okay, so the conversation. What's most important is that you talk about what family means and what you both want your family to look like and be like. And so for her and I, it was big, chaotic family versus controlled, small family. I think that was what it was like for us. Discussing whether you want children is important, as is discussing how many children you each imagine in your ideal family scenario. The cost. According to Gottman, and this is a couple of years ago, that I think this is about 5 or 8 years ago that this particular statistic was compiled. Your average cost to raise a child up to age 18 is between $200,000 and $400,000 US, and that doesn't include college.
Oh yeah,
which can be 40,
double that,
80, yeah, 1,000, and I can't think of a single child I know who left home at 18, or 17.
Not one.
Yeah, so you should be prepared to raise the child double that again. You should be prepared to raise your child to age 34. No,
yeah.
with just how the trend is going in terms of how much a house costs and how much education kids like to get now. I mean, I have a BA, a law degree, and a master's in law. So that was 3, maybe 8 years of education to be the best waiter in the game. But,
and that's important to know. And Gunther, if you don't mind me saying it, like I know that myself and Gunther and other men on this team have dated females with children, and that is one thing to consider, right? Like, do just know that when you do that, that you might be signing up for not the age that you're thinking in your head. Because I'll be honest, like when I was dating a woman with a child, in my head, it's like, oh well, when he's 18, that's when he'll become an adult. And then implied is like, oh, well, that's when that game would be over. That's not when the game would be over, because as Ray's pointing out, I don't know a single child who's ever moved out at 18. I mean, they typically go to college, but some of them, a lot of people are not choosing to do that now. And then what happens? They come back. They come back during holidays, and then they come back after college. So what do you think a good age to estimate is? Like 25, 26, 27? Out here in Southern California, it's probably around that age.
Well, I think it's just important to, these statistics are designed to scare us, right? That the cost to raise a child at 17 is $200,000 to $400,000. Okay, mission accomplished, Dr. Gottman. We're scared. But the reality is even scarier, that you never finish parenting a child.
Yep.
And at my age, and I think at your age, or Wes, you started way earlier than me. The day will come where you realize that you're starting to parent your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mom's in her 70s and is constantly calling me for little favors. It's fine. Sometimes I feel like doing them, sometimes I don't. But like the assistance train starts going the other way.
Yep.
And that's not just financial. It's just like it's time, and it's like vetoing certain decisions that they make. Like the parenting train just goes the other way.
Yep.
And so just be prepared to be in the parenting, Thunderdome.
Yes.
Forever.
Basically for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, in terms of manifest a good feeling about that, treat it as leadership skills that, God gave you, and that you're fully exercising.
Yeah, I think if you can turn it into and look at it as an honor, it's like
if
that's your cross to bear, that's a great freaking cross to bear.
Not a hassle, not a job, not a duty, but an honor.
Yep.
Right. And like a challenge to do it well. Right. And as you well know, a challenge to do it better than how you were, the hand you were dealt as a kid.
Yeah, and I think you can take. Yeah, and I think you can take the inverse of the problem, right? Like if you look at the data behind marriages or raising children with no men in the household, the statistics are horrible, like absolutely horrible. Because my hypothesis would be because you don't have that concrete anchor, right? That a man can provide, this stoicism, right? We are doing this because it's the right thing to do, not because we feel like it or not. Right, that constant reinforcement, especially if you're raising like a young man, because a young man, and I've seen this with, in my example that I mentioned earlier, right? Young men get exponentially stronger as they grow up, and if that strength is not unidimensionally focused and narrowed in the right direction, that can wreak havoc on a household.
Yeah,
because at the age of 11 or 12, he's stronger than his mother. Right. And then all of a sudden he's got a little bit of lip to him. And then one day she spanks him. He's like, oh, this doesn't hurt anymore. And no, I can push mom off me. Right. And now mom's scared of me. It's like, where does that go? That goes to a very bad place. So in my opinion, you need a man in the household.
Yeah. And if I think of what my own therapist told me, he said that in discussing my own estranged relationship to my father, he said that from basically age 0 to 10 or 12, the mother is the primary parent to show the kid that they're young, to show the boy that they're loved and that they're safe and that they're all like, you know what I mean? And like, and then from age 10 or 12 onwards, the primary parent is supposed to be the father who shows the young boy how to navigate the world as a man and like to mentor him.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
I like that idea.
So, so your remark about age 12 is spot on, because that is when he's now stronger than mom, typically, and he doesn't need, and so he goes from requiring protection from mom to like learning how to be a warrior, chief, elder of the tribe.
Yeah, and simultaneously around that age, probably getting exposed to things where he's going to experience a lot of forks in the road, if that makes sense. And he can either use his gifts of his strength, and all those things, right? Like to go down road A or road B. And oftentimes road A feels good in the moment, but can be devastating down the road. And he's not necessarily going to maybe even feel comfortable talking to mom about road A or road B, right? And he needs a man to be able to guide him down that road.
Exactly. Back to my notes on 8.5, chapter 5. There's no doubt that children need, demand, and deserve your love, time, and attention. But this shouldn't be at the expense of your primary relationship with each other. So for the last little while, we've been talking about parenting, but let's not forget that ideally, there's still another relationship in the mix here, and that is the relationship between mom and dad.
Yep.
Right. And so that is a difficult juggling act that takes place after children are born, right? Where you make the time to have an intimate and romantic relationship even though your love and time and attention and resources are now also being consumed by the child.
I've read several books on this on parenting, on marriage, etc. And I think across the board, they all say that there should be a proper hierarchy in place inside of a family, that it's mom and dad at the top.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to peek in Ray's household, would I see that's the case? Or do you guys make it work a different way? Like, are mom and dad the priority and that's clear?
No,
or,
no,
okay.
It's a, no, our daughter has like natural, like Jedi level sales skills. And so constantly usurping love, power, and resources from the mom-dad relationship.
Yeah.
And it's not, and not in a bad way either, where like this child is a product of your love, or a product, at the very least, a biological product of your relationship, and a biological product of each other. And so it is, you're compelled. And it's the new thing. So personally, I've been with 13 years. Thea's been in our life only 9.5. So, and is growing and changing constantly. So it's the new distracting thing as well. And so we do make time for each other, but it is a learned behavior. It's something that we fell right into the trap that Dr. Gottman talks about. He talks about a satisfaction curve, right, in the book. And there is this, and let me know if you can see this. Can you see that chart? So there is a satisfaction curve where you're first married, the satisfaction is high at like a level 10 or whatever, and it just goes down and down and down. After you're married and you're with the same person and the sex is the same, and the complaints are the same and the routine is the same, it goes down. And then once the child is born, marital satisfaction plummets, and it only starts going up again after the kids leave home.
Yeah.
Which is, statistically probably 17 years later.
Right.
And then satisfaction later in life is when you're in your 70s and having all that awesome geriatric sex, I guess. But, so we definitely fell into this. So we definitely fell into. So Thea hasn't left home. We're halfway through the downward collapse. The societal collapse stage here, and we absolutely fell into that unfortunate pattern.
That pattern, yeah.
Why did we fall into that pattern? Because we didn't, at times we didn't follow the two main goals of a marriage. Guys, you're not going to like this one, okay? But according to Gottman, men who are more respectful to their wives and more accepting of their wife's influence and opinions were more likely not to have a drop in marital satisfaction after the children were born. These are my words. This is Dr. Gottman. Men who were more respectful to their wives and more accepting of their wife's influence and opinions were more likely not to have a drop in marital satisfaction after children were born. That might be that makes me think of the cliche, happy wife, happy life.
Right.
Which can be misinterpreted as she's always right and I just have to kind of cram down what I want until I explode. So the goals for maintaining as part of the analysis of the Love Lab and watching whatever 50 or crunching the numbers of 1,500 couples that had a new child, the goals for maintaining marital happiness with a new baby, according to Dr. Gottman, are 1, both partners should work to stay involved during the pregnancy and birth of the children. And 2, the second most important thing is for the two of you to maintain intimacy and connection. you need to make your relationship a priority. And so we didn't do that at first. There was a drop off in the sex life, and a drop we stopped going to restaurants. There's no more date nights, that kind of thing, because of all of our attention and resources we love going to this new baby, and our relationship suffered. And so it's something that that came up a lot in our marriage counseling with our Gottman specialist. And it's something that we try to make a priority now, but is still, something that we have to actively do. And it's not something that just passively occurs for us.
Right.
It's not passive. It's not passive marriage income. It is marriage income that has to be earned.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Completely agree with that. And I would imagine it also has to be earned even if you're not happy about it. Like you still show up to work every day. It's like, we're going to go on date night, even if we don't necessarily want to right now. I imagine no different than working out. There's going to be times you want to work out and there's going to be times you don't.
Yeah. I mean, we aspire to reach that Jedi level. Wes, we don't get in fights and then, God damn it, I'm taking you out for a steak dinner.
Yeah.
It's a battle. I mean, and it's a battle for me with one kid. I can't imagine Fran with 3 has it easier, or like, I think he just identifies it as vitally important and makes it a priority.
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you who have multiple children, I have the utmost respect. I don't, and for you, Ray, who has one child, I mean, I'm not entered into that part of my life yet. I could only imagine how difficult it actually is. So thank you and all the other guys who are doing that to actually provide some leadership around that and actually following through with it. Because I do know of a lot of situations, and I was a product of a situation where the man just said, screw this, I'm out.
Right. And I'm a product of a situation where the man said that, screw this, I'm out, but stayed in the marriage and stayed in the
Yep, just mentally checked out and emotionally.
Yeah. So if you choose to have a family, Gottman continues, it's imperative to continue to carve out a special time to focus on each other, to continue to have a satisfying sex life, and to continue to build rituals for connection and intimacy. The greatest, and I love this part, and this is kind of like a theme that comes up over and over again. The greatest gift for a child is a loving relationship between parents. This is the foundation that he or she will build on for a lifetime. The greatest gift for a child is a loving relationship between parents. So that's the thing. It's like, if you don't maintain that intimacy, that sex life, those date nights, and continue to build rituals for connection and intimacy, you're not only scorching the parental relationship, you're teaching bad habits to your kid, and you're like you're defining what a normal happy marriage is for this. Like you're like, you know what I mean? You're fucked up
absolutely.
Relationship. You're defining that as normal for your kid.
Yes, and I think where a lot of parents make a mistake, at least from my observation, is that they will give the verbal values, right? But not realizing or not being present to the fact that I'm assuming children learn more through osmosis than they do through the audible form. Like, okay, mom and dad tell me this, but then I absorb all of this information that they tell me non-verbally. I'm going to assume that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, telling your child fitness is important is one thing, but like proving through your actions that you take the time every day or every week to make sure your mind and body are in peak functioning condition. Yep,
absolutely.
That's the way to do it. And one way that Sarah and I have recently started combining that is that we and I do personal trainer sessions together as a couple. Shows our child it's important, and it's also, it qualifies as one of those kind of date nights, spending time together, relationship building, quality time. Or as Ryan Chalupa Cabra said, like 2 years ago now, at the beginning of our time together, activity-based quality time.
Yep.
And you know what? Like I bring that up all the time, but that might be the key. That might be the life hack, the really simple way of keeping the fibers of that lifeline together strong. Is activity-based quality time. Activity-based quality time.
Love it. Chalupa Cabra, thank you for that input there, man. Yeah, they were probably going like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. No, we're coming on 2 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And Kaizen is saying activity and novelty. Love it. Ray, any other low hanging fruit or any other things that stick out dramatically from your notes?
Well, that's it for the notes, but why don't I run through the speed dating, which is a chapter summary.
Yep.
The definition of family is diverse and can include children, adopted children, foster children, no children, pets, friends, or your extended family. The decision to have children or not can be a real deal breaker. Be very honest and open about your wishes to have children and how many you envision. Don't enter into a marriage thinking you can convince your spouse to have children or not have children later on, as you've personally witnessed.
Nightmare.
The average cost to raise a child born in 2015 is between $200,000 and $400,000, and this does not include college. Your primary relationship is your relationship to each other. That's the mom and dad. That's the stepmom and stepdad, whatever, the parental relationship. Approximately 2/3 of couples have a sharp drop in marital satisfaction shortly after a child is born, and this drop gets even deeper with each subsequent child. However, and so I did experience that. However, that is not permanent and can be reversed. To avoid this drop in marital happiness, fathers need to be involved in the pregnancy, the birth, and caring for the baby, and conflict needs to be low, and you need to maintain your sexual relationship. So this this sharp drop in marital satisfaction that the majority of couples experience can be reversed by nurturing the relationship between each other. And my personal recommendation is through activity-based quality time.
Yep. Love it. Mr. Ray, thank you as always, brother.
Thank you, Wes.
We're knocking down this book, so we almost were.
We are gonna finish it during calendar year 2022. That is my commitment to you, gentlemen. And Friday, Wes, all things being equal, we will carry on with date 6, chapter 6. Play with me, fun and adventure. Sound
all right.
Good?
Yep. It's an honor, brother. Talk to you on Friday. Dudes, have an awesome weekend. See you soon.